Did you know that the most feared man in the Mediterranean was not a king, not an emperor, but a pirate? His name was Hayreddin Barbarossa, a man whose very name made entire cities tremble and mighty fleets flee. Barbarossa was born on the Greek island of Lesbos, the son of a simple potter. He had no noble title, no kingdom waiting for him. From a very young age, he worked as a sailor, learning the ways of the sea, the currents, the winds, the secrets that the waves held. He later became a smuggler, gaining both incredible skill and unmatched courage in the dangerous waters of the Mediterranean. It was a tough life, but it forged him into the man he would become. This wasn't just a job, it was his training ground, where he learned that the sea rewards the bold and punishes the weak. Together with his older brother Aruj, Barbarossa began his life as a pirate. But they weren't just any pirates. They were rebels with a cause. They attacked Spanish ships, destroyed coastal fortresses, and in a move that earned them both respect and fear, they freed thousands of Muslims from slavery. His reputation grew with every raid, every victory. Soon, the great cities of Europe learned to dread the sight of his red-sailed ships on the horizon. His name, Barbarossa, which means Redbeard, became a symbol of defiance and power. But make no mistake, Barbarossa was not some mindless raider. Every attack, every battle was a carefully calculated move in a much larger game. He was building an empire on the waves, brick by brick, ship by ship. He wasn't just collecting treasure. He was collecting power, loyalty, and influence. His name spread like wildfire, carried on the winds and whispered in taverns from the shores of Spain to the coast of Italy. The very mention of Barbarossa was enough to send a shiver down the spine of the most hardened captain. He became a master of strategy, a grand chess master on the vast board of the Mediterranean. He understood politics just as well as he understood naval warfare. He knew when to strike with overwhelming force and when to use fear as his most potent weapon. Every conquest wasn't just a victory, it was a message. It strengthened his influence, expanded his network, and taught his enemies a deadly lesson. Underestimating Barbarossa was a fatal mistake. His rise was meteoric, and Europe was forced to watch as a pirate king emerged from the sea. Then, tragedy struck. When his brother Aruj was killed in battle, many expected Barbarossa to falter, to crumble under the weight of his loss. But they were wrong. Instead, he became even more determined, even more dangerous. He made a move that no one saw coming. He offered his entire fleet to the Ottoman Sultan. The Sultan, recognizing the immense power Barbarossa commanded, didn't just accept. He welcomed him with open arms, not as a pirate, but as a grand admiral of the entire Ottoman navy. In one bold stroke, Barbarossa's life shifted from a rogue adventurer to one of the most powerful naval leaders of his era. Now, with the might of an empire behind him, Barbarossa faced his greatest challenge, the Holy League, a massive alliance formed by the combined fleets of Spain, Venice, and the Holy Roman Empire. On paper, they should have crushed him. They had more ships, more men, more cannons, but they didn't have Barbarossa. His tactical genius and fearless command at the Battle of Preveza were legendary. He turned what should have been a slaughter into a stunning victory, effectively turning the Mediterranean into what many called an Ottoman lake for decades to come. His power was absolute. Kings negotiated with him, popes feared him, and wealthy merchants paid tribute just to avoid his wrath. Barbarossa maintained iron-fisted control over vast territories in North Africa, building powerful alliances and ensuring that his legend would long outlast him. He wasn't just a pirate anymore. He was a kingmaker, a power broker who could change the fate of nations with a single command from the deck of his flagship. He expanded his influence far beyond open seas, fortifying ports and cities along the North African coast. Algiers became his fortress, a pirate capital that projected his power across the water. Coastal towns and villages learned to pay tribute to avoid his devastating attacks. His presence alone was enough to shift the balance of power in the entire region. European rulers had to factor Barbarossa into every political and military calculation they made. Barbarossa's victories weren't just military, they were psychological. Fear and respect went hand in hand. He cultivated an aura of invincibility, a reputation for cunning and ruthlessness that preceded him everywhere. Every tale of his daring escapes, his brilliant strategies, and his unyielding will spread across Europe like wildfire, further cementing his legendary status. He was more than a man. He was a myth in his own lifetime, a sea monster that haunted the dreams of kings. Despite his fearsome reputation, Barbarossa was also a brilliant leader who understood the value of loyalty. He rewarded his men generously, sharing the spoils of their victories and inspiring fierce devotion. He built a fleet that was not just large, but also technologically advanced, capable of challenging and defeating even the strongest European naval powers. His men weren't just following orders, they were following a leader they believed in, a man who had lifted them from nothing to the masters of the sea. And after a lifetime of battles, storms, and intrigue, how did this legendary pirate meet his end? Not in a blaze of glory on the deck of a sinking ship. No, Barbarossa passed away peacefully in his bed, an old man, honored, wealthy, and undefeated. But his legacy of fear remained, etched into the hearts of Europe for generations. His life was a testament to courage, cunning, and unmatched naval power. He had done the impossible. The Mediterranean would never forget him. Statues were erected in his honor. His exploits were charted on maps, and tales of his adventures were told and retold in every port. He had transformed himself from a simple sailor into a true legend, a man who could strike fear into the hearts of kings and emperors alike, a man who had ruled the waves not by birthright, but by sheer force of will. Even centuries later, his story continues to fascinate. Historians study his innovative tactics, sailors admire his masterful command of the seas, and his name still echoes across the Mediterranean, a whisper on the wind. He proved that power doesn't always come from a crown or a castle. Sometimes it comes from skill, from daring, and from the unbreakable will to rule the waves. And so, the story of Hayreddin Barbarossa lives on, a pirate who became an admiral, a potter's son who became a legend, and a man whose name still resonates with power and fear across the Mediterranean. He wasn't just a part of history, he made history. If you enjoyed this story of legendary power and ambition, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. The next legendary tale we uncover might be even more incredible. Thanks for watching.